So, what do we have here?
It seems to be a letter written by someone.
Any fingerprints or something?
No fingerprints, no DNA.
What are we supposed to do then?
Up. I don't know.
Oh, we're gonna do with this.
Always the same. Always the same.
We just gotta go home.
Yeah.
We just gotta go
I don't
home.
know. I don't know.
What are we supposed to do with a piece of paper?
It's always the same.
Yeah. We're totally screwed.
Yeah.
We can't do anything.
Anything.
What this group of people didn't know is that in front of their eyes lay an invaluable clue. The problem, they didn't have a groundbreaking instrument that can solve this case and many others in the future. The name, Forensic Linguistics.
Since we start to grow up, we learn different ways of communication, one of them being handwriting, the capacity to put our ideas on paper through codes and symbols using our language. That handwriting, when we take the time to analyze it, it's possible to find as much information about someone as the way we do when we analyze a fingerprint. Our handwriting, and not only that, our entire ways of expressing ourselves, speaks more than we think it does. There is an instrument of analysis for this. It was named in the 20th century as forensic linguistics.
Forensic linguistics is mainly described as a subfield of applied linguistics, in which linguistic knowledge, analysis, and methodologies are applied to forensic and criminal situations. Coulthard and Johnson in 2010 defined it as the study of language and the law, elaborating that forensic linguistics concerns the applied forensic linguist who is involved in providing evidence as an expert for the defense and prosecution. Linguists conclude that the work of forensic linguistics falls into two main categories. One, the study of language and law, all related to the discourse analysis in the making of laws and why we write them in certain ways. The other one is all related to the use of language as evidence for investigations. Blackwell includes confessions, trademark litigation, threats and extortion attempts, incriminating recordings, suicide notes, authorship issues, and accusations of plagiarism as part of the scope of forensic linguistics. The concept of forensic linguistics was first used in practice by Jan Svarvigt, a Swedish linguist who in 1968 published The Evans Statements, a case for forensic linguistics, a book by which he analyzed the confessions of a convicted man sentenced to death for the killing of his family in 1950. Svarvik evidenced stylistic inconsistencies between different statements, resolving that the documents were tampered and the accused was innocent. This marked a precedent in crime investigations and law. Another important case is of Derek Bentley, which took place in the United Kingdom in 1952. This was a landmark legal case because of the use of forensic evidence, including linguistic analysis. Bentley was a 19-year-old man with learning difficulties who broke into a warehouse with his friend Christopher Craig, of 16 years old. The incident escalated when the police arrived, starting a confrontation. Bentley was detained on the roof of the building, and Craig, who was armed, resisted arrest. Bentley allegedly shouted to Craig, "Let him have it, Chris." Craig then shot and killed a police officer. Bentley was charged with murder, even though he did not physically commit the act. Bentley's trial and eventual execution sparked public controversy and debates about the fairness of the legal system up until 40 years later, when Bentley was granted a posthumous pardon, similar to the case of Evans that we mentioned before. The linguistic analysis of Bentley's statement raised tons of questions about the interpretation of language and how it could be influenced by factors such as education, social background, and of course cognitive abilities. This case highlighted the need for a deeper understanding of language in legal contexts and paved the way for the development of forensic linguistics as the discipline we know today. But now, there's a new problem.
With the huge evolution of technologies throughout the last couple of decades, communication, papers, documents, even newspapers have moved to the internet world, providing the space for cybercrime to be committed. Since online communication is mostly text-based, there's many opportunities for forensic linguists and investigators to collect evidence and use it on courtroom procedures. But let's dive a little deeper into what exactly forensic linguistics does and maybe some practical examples.
Forensic linguistics has worked in cybercrime investigations since the SMS invention to more recent cases involving tweets and forum messages. For example, Grant in 2017 could explain to the courtroom that the chat message, "I'll get the fiend to dappy her then," did indeed indicate a threat against the victim. Grant traced back the verb to dappy, finding its origins in Jamaican English, which means to ghost. So it was indeed a murder threat. Another example of forensic linguistic applications comes from Nifka in 1996, where he analyzed threatening letters a German company was receiving. The letter's content indicated that the author was a company's employee. Nifka's analysis discovered marked linguistic constructions of the German language, including unusual spelling errors with humulatus, awkward lexical collocations, and non-idiomatic use of German proverbs. Therefore, Nifka concluded that the author was probably a non-native German speaker with a high proficiency in German. This sort of investigation is called native language influence detection, and it is based on the concept of sociolinguistic profiling. That is to say, the idea that an individual's linguistic output is influenced by several factors such as gender, age, other languages spoken, geographical background, etc. As you can see, forensic linguistics works with several areas in investigation processes. Yet, forensic linguistics framework in cybercrime is considered to be broad enough to determine its limits. Perkins in 2018 said it would be impossible to cover all the areas in which forensic linguistics can contribute to cybercrime investigation. This is in part because of both fields constantly evolving. Despite that, some authors try to classify forensic linguistic work. The majority of existing forensic linguistic work relates to three broad categories: written legal language, spoken legal language, such as analyzing power in interviews, and investigative linguistics and the provision of evidence. In this third category, that is the most closely allied to work done in relation to cybercrime investigations, we could find a variety of different tasks that forensic linguistics perform. These include comparative authorship analysis, sociolinguistic profiling, interactional meaning, determining meaning, trademark disputes, and copyright infringement. One of the most remarkable works from forensic linguistics in cybercrime is the development of linguistic inquiry and word count software, which thoroughly analyzed text to classify them over 80 linguistic, psychological, and topical categories indicating various social, cognitive, and affective processes. This definition was brought to you by Digital Humanities Workbench.
As you could see, this software analyzes different texts in order to identify very specific linguistic patterns. This software, this tool, have many interesting applications, and today we're going to review one of them that my classmate Vania is going to explain to you.
Grooming is a specific set of steps that an offender employs with the intention of committing a sexual offense against a child, with specific goals including secrecy, compliance, and finally, gaining access to the child. Offenders use specific strategies, such as flattery, to coerce the victim into sexual relationship, and then use different strategies, such as threats or intimidation, to ensure that the victim remains complicit and keeps the nature of their relationship a secret.
One of the most commonly used tools is the Linguistic Injury and Word Count program, which scans transcripts word for word and compares each word to its dictionary, resulting in a total percentage of use of each word category relative to the total word count of the transcript. Other tools used in grooming studies include qualitative content analysis, which involves identifying themes and patterns in the language used by offenders, and quantitative content analysis, which involves counting the frequency of specific words or phrases used by offenders. Additionally, researchers may use observational methods to analyze the behavior of offenders during the grooming interactions, as well as self-report measures to assess the attitudes and beliefs of offenders regarding their grooming behaviors. The evolution of grooming, and mainly the historical context. The concept of grooming has been around for a long time, but it was first introduced in the context of child sexual abuse in the 1980s by Finkelor. With the continued growth and use of the internet as a tool for communication worldwide, the manner in which people interact with one another is in a state of constant evolution. Although individuals from every generation are spending a substantial amount of time online, it has become particularly socially acceptable for younger individuals to form friendly and intimate relationships with strangers online. Online grooming often involves adults creating fake profiles and posing as a children or teens in order to befriend someone and gain their trust. This might be the first step towards sexual abuse or online stalking or harassment. Linguistic analysis in understanding grooming strategies of online child sex offenders is that it allows researchers to examine the language used by offenders during the grooming process in a more objective and systematic way. By analyzing the language used in online interactions between offenders and potential victims, researchers can identify specific linguistic patterns and strategies that offenders use to manipulate and groom their victims. This information can be used to develop more effective prevention and intervention strategies to protect children from online sexual exploitation.
Online grooming strategies differ from traditional grooming methods in several ways. While many of the strategies used in face-to-face grooming, such as flattery and discussing plans for travel, are also present in online grooming, the manner and timing of these strategies may differ. For example, certain aspects of grooming, such as assessing risk and potential for victimization, were observed more often within the 40% of computer-mediated communication. Additionally, sexual content was introduced earlier in the online grooming process than in face-to-face encounters. The study suggests that these differences in the progression of the grooming process may be due to the unique characteristics of online communication, such as the ability to remain anonymous and the lack of physical proximity between the offender and victim. During this research, we wondered if forensic linguistics within cybercrime investigation was a thing here in Chile, and if it was, how it was used and its results. We encountered that forensic linguistics has been a topic of discussion in some universities, but it lacks research and investigation in the field, so it is not as developed in comparison to other countries such as USA, UK, Spain, etc. In fact, there is not much information about forensic linguistics and its applications in Chile. However, this also is evidence and something important to consider at the moment of doing research.
Because of this, we wondered if any institution makes use of this technique in our country. So we asked Policía de Investigaciones through an email if they had certain kind of information about forensic linguistics. They did respond by offering us an interview, but saying that they didn't have much information. As of today, we are still waiting for the interview and we are left with more questions than answers. Believing in forensic linguistics as a possible groundbreaking instrument in grooming investigations cases is not an understatement, as we mentioned before, but a reality in many other countries' legal institutions.
With this class, we can conclude that forensic linguistics is an area that has been updating and expanding its studies simultaneously with the necessities that have arisen inside modern societies. Forensic linguistics provides crucial evidence by analyzing linguistic patterns, playing an important role in crime and cybercrime cases. For this reason, forensic linguistics is already being used as an investigation tool in many countries, obtaining significant results in identifying groomers' course of action. Considering the actual panorama in our country, it is necessary to count on all the useful updated tools that science offers, forensic linguistics being one of them, to fight against the proliferation of grooming. Thank you so much for watching, and please keep learning.